Welcome to part 2 of this presentation for parents. In this section I'll share some of the findings of an Australian research study into the transition needs and issues of high school students who are deaf or hard of hearing. I'll also talk about the role of self-determination skills, self-advocacy, and disclosing one's hearing loss. These are some research findings that are relevant here. The research study was done for my PhD thesis about 10 years ago and looked at students in years 10, 11 and 12 in Queensland and New South Wales who were in mainstream settings with support from visiting teachers of the deaf. 65 students completed a questionnaire and I conducted in-depth interviews with 12. Most of these students had concerns about their life after school. Some were worried about leaving the protective environment of school. In terms of jobs, they were particularly worried about having to use the phone and to work in groups. Over 2/3 saw people not understanding their hearing loss as a potential barrier in their post-school life. They were concerned that, unlike at school and at home, people out there in the wider world wouldn't have any understanding of their hearing loss. Some students had already ruled out certain jobs or careers because of their hearing loss. Nursing and teaching were two examples. And they had little idea of ways in which the effects of their hearing loss could be minimised or accommodated in various work situations. The students had significantly less paid work experience than their peers without hearing loss, and that was largely because of their worries about hearing in noisy environments. They avoided the sorts of part-time jobs that are the most common for school students to get, working in retail, in fast food outlets and so on, because of their concerns about not hearing well enough or understanding the speech of unfamiliar people in these environments. As well, most had no adult role models who were deaf or hard of hearing who they could discuss these issues with and learn from. I'll share a couple of direct quotes with you from the interviews with these adolescents. The first one was a girl in Year 12 who had a part-time job in an aged care setting, and she was talking about the reactions of the staff there, not the residents, when she said, "They get a bit irritated when I don't hear them when they're talking to me, and I have to make them repeat the whole thing again, so that's when they stop talking to me because they realise I'm hearing impaired." The second one was a boy in Year 10 who hadn't had any work experience and was quite nervous about how he'd manage in the workplace. He said, "I won't be able to hear too well and what they tell you to do and stuff, and I'm scared I'll get mixed up." And there were many others like this, and you can see the sorts of concerns and lack of confidence that they have. It's such a help for young people at school to have contact with adults who are deaf or hard of hearing, role models who can share their own experiences of overcoming challenges like these. Mentoring programs such as Here For You are great in this way because the mentors are still quite young themselves and the adolescent can relate to them really well. Work experience while in school is really valuable. Whether it's part of a school work experience program or a paid part-time job or even volunteer work, it's a taste of a real-life work environment. It helps young people to learn the importance of many work skills, especially what are called soft skills. These are things like reliability, punctuality, ways of behaving in the workplace, interpersonal skills, and they're particularly valued by employers. For work experience to be most valuable, students who are deaf or hard of hearing need to discuss their experiences with a knowledgeable adult. That can be parents or teachers or careers professionals or adults who are deaf or hard of hearing. This is so that they can really learn from their experiences, discuss any challenges they had and how they could get around them in the future, work out strategies to deal with them. And this really helps them to build the skills and confidence that will benefit them in their transition to post-school life. Often extended family and friends can be a good source of work experience, so use your networks. Another set of skills that are important for young people with hearing loss is self-determination. It's defined as a combination of skills, knowledge and beliefs that enable a person to engage in goal-directed, self-regulated, autonomous behaviour. It's really just a term to describe the increasing independence and ability to manage one's life that's needed to assume adult roles. It's about taking responsibility for yourself. So it's a normal developmental stage of growing up, but it doesn't necessarily happen automatically. Many young people need some additional encouragement and instruction in self-determination skills. Research has found strong associations between self-determination and positive transition outcomes, including higher levels of employment and success in post-secondary education. The skills include goal setting, decision making, problem solving, assertiveness, self-awareness, and self-advocacy. For young people who are deaf or hard of hearing, all these skills are important, and self-advocacy particularly. As parents, you've been advocates for your children. As well, the school system and its deaf education specialists have worked to ensure that your children are provided with the supports they need in school. But after leaving school, they'll need to start assuming adult roles, and they'll need to advocate on their own behalf sometimes. And research has shown that good self-advocacy skills are associated with better post-school outcomes for people who are deaf or hard of hearing. Most importantly, having a good understanding of one's own hearing loss and everything associated with it, such as communication strategies, maintenance of equipment, and using technology accommodations. Young people with hearing loss are going to need to recognise when they need help or support and know how to ask for it. Knowing about their rights under equal opportunity legislation can give them more confidence in this. And deciding how and when to disclose their hearing loss can be a major part of their self-advocacy. If your teenager's hearing loss isn't immediately apparent to other people, and if their hearing aids or cochlear implants are hidden by their hair, they might prefer to conceal it when they meet new people. In many situations, this is a personal decision that we should respect, or at least understand. I remember my daughter at that age telling me that often people treated her differently when she told them, and especially when she started university. She hated that feeling of being different, and she wouldn't be upfront about it. And I could understand that, but at the same time I could often see that misunderstandings arose because she misheard or didn't respond appropriately when people spoke to her. And there are reasons why it's a good idea to disclose in lots of situations. Firstly, of course, you can't ask for accommodations or supports if you don't. And in workplace and social situations, it's easier to informally ask for clarification when others realise that you have a hearing loss and have some understanding of it. And it can be stressful to try and hide something that's so integral to the person in their daily life. Especially in an employment situation, young people may not know when to disclose. Most people wouldn't mention it in a job application, but would during a job interview. Others try and wait until they have the job before disclosing, feeling that it would damage their chances if prospective employers knew about their hearing loss. Of course, in the case of people who are profoundly deaf, especially if they need an interpreter, they have to be upfront about this before a job interview. For students wanting to go to university or TAFE, it's best if they check out the institution's disability services and visit and discuss their needs with the disability liaison officer. If not then, when they have an offer they want to accept, they should make an appointment then. It's better to do this as early as possible. It's really important not to leave this until the first semester has actually started. Whenever they choose to disclose their hearing loss, how they do it will affect how it's received. The student or young adult needs to be able to describe their hearing loss and its implications in a particular environment and show that they can come up with solutions and ways around any limitations it causes. They should be able to explain any accommodations or supports they might need. And there's also a need for the communication skills to discuss and negotiate options. So young people will need help in developing all the self-advocacy skills, and from a range of people that can include their parents, their teachers of the deaf, their audiologists, and their school's careers personnel. These things can be learned with the help of modelling and role plays. Some students work with their parents or careers counsellor or teacher of the deaf on a script that they can rehearse to explain their hearing loss at job interviews, so that they feel more comfortable about doing this when the time comes. The next part of the presentation, Part 3, focuses on employment issues and preparation for students who are deaf or hard of hearing.